Commissioners Court, April the 24th, 2007. As we do all meetings, we will start with an invocation by Pastor Andreas Lewis from Good Shepherd.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you tonight that we can begin this meeting by recognizing that we are one nation under God and that you are interested in the affairs of men. I thank you that in this chamber tonight are gathered men and women who want to do the best for this county. I pray, Father, that there will be a spirit of understanding and revelation and counsel, so that the decisions that may be made here tonight would bring glory to your name, prosperity to this county, bring your peace and your will and your kingdom to this area. Father, we thank you for your presence here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. If we could just remain standing just for a few seconds. A former county judge, Ray Ramon, had a stroke yesterday. So I just ask that you have him in your prayers. He's at Valley Baptist in Harlingen. He's okay, but he's going to have to go through a recovery process. So we just have him in our prayers for a few seconds, please. Thank you. I'd like to ask Ms. Paula Gomez to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the Texas flag. Paula?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one and indivisible. Thank you, Paula. Item 1, public comments. No one signed up.
Judge, I'd like to just, one quick announcement.
Yes.
A county employee that's been with this county well over 25 years, I think it's 28 to be exact, Tito Gomez from Precinct 3, he's worked in the Public Works Department, will be retiring as of the end of this week. And I know that it's hard to see these good employees leave, but it's really good to see them and do well in their retirement. He says, how can I keep working if I'm better off not working than working, you know? So it's what everyone strives for individually in their lives, and I just want to, thank him for his service to this county and wish him the best in his retirement starting next week.
Maybe I can get a little resolution for him.
Next week.
I will tell you, I think Estela Farias, who's also been a long-time county employee, is also retiring soon. Yeah. And so, we wish them both well.
Well, and I'd like to mention the fact, Commissioner Garza, my precinct borders yours, and a lot of times I get compliments about your people thinking that they're in Precinct 4. Well, we're centralized, and so I thank them. I'll tell them I'll pass the compliment on, and I know that Tito, in many cases, has been the person, say he's patient with us, he answers our questions, so I too hate to see him leave. Thank you.
Well, Stella's in the audience, and I was here back in 91, and she hasn't changed a bit. Looks the same. Stella, you'll be missed. Thank you.
But she will be here next week, right?
Yeah, she'll be here next week. No? Okay. We're missing you already. All right. No public comment other than that. Thank you very much. Item 2, presentation of the fiscal year 2006 Cameron County Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Me neither.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Local Government Code, Section 114.025 says county auditors' annual reports to commissioners, courts, and district judges. It says the annual report must include a record of all transactions made during a calendar year. The auditors shall file an annual report at a regular or special term of the commissioners' court held during the month of April of the following year, and the auditor shall file a copy of the report with the district judges of the county. I've already filed a copy with the district clerk and provided each of the district judges a copy of the report. Each of the commissioners have been sent an annual report. I'd like to schedule meetings with each of you to go through any details or any particular aspect of the annual report that you'd like to discuss or receive further explanation. I'd like to provide this copy to the county clerk for the official recordation. This is about the third year in which the county has implemented what they call Government Accounting Standards Board 34, Statement Number 34. And we call it GASB 34, and it changes the nature of the report provided. But the old report, in which was the funds-based accounting, has been changed into general government purpose financial statements and into major and non-major funds. But this report is broken up into an introductory section, includes a table of contents, a letter to the commissioners and county judges regarding the highlights of the year's transactions. It's more of a Chamber of Commerce type of piece, tells everything that we've been working on, which projects, where we stand on them. It also includes basic general financial analysis, and in a format midway through the annual report introductory letter is a countywide or entity-wide report on all revenues and all county expenditures, and it takes the entity of Cameron County, all its funds, the Cameron-Willacy Adult Probation and Community Service and Corrections Department, and the Emergency Service Department, rolls those all into one entity and shows how those funds are spent, either in revenue or and how the revenues are particularly received. And the purpose of this report is in compliance with a Financial Data Advisory Committee, what we call the FDAC. In August 26th of 2002, the comptroller at the time, the Honorable Carol Keaton Rylander Strayhorn, subsequently, wanted to put together a report that could compare all counties across the board so that all the categories would be reported and similar. So the purpose of this report, and it's found on page 7, is to compare our county's activities to other counties of all sizes. And what it does is breaks down the revenues on a percentage of budget, expenditures on a percentage of budget, and then provides 2 additional columns. Provides on a per capita basis, roughly 385,000 people, what our costs are and what our revenues are on a per capita basis. So that's important information. Then the next section is what we call a financial section, begins on page 15 and begins
What
with
page? I'm sorry?
the next section, which is the financial section, the required financial section. And it's on page 15, but on page 17 is the independent auditor's report. And in the audience, if you have any questions, is our independent auditor from Long Chilton, Long Chilton, I want to refer to as Long Chilton Peyton Harden from the mid-'80s when I was working there. But Long Chilton, Mr. Carlos Barrera, do you all have any questions of Mr. Barrera?
I have a question in regards to, I know we had a committee that was designated to get the report and visit about the report, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Was there any report from the committee itself on the auditor's report?
Well, the audit committee did meet. They met with the independent auditor on the nature of his audit experience. They did meet, yes.
But
Was
not
there a
on the
written
actual,
report?
not on the actual document?
Well,
After it was received?
If you recall, about 2 weeks ago, we formed another audit committee, because the old had never met. And I was in that meeting, Mark, Javier, Carlos Barrera, Yvette, and myself. And we talked about the audit. And I've got some questions I'm going to ask.
Well, I would like to know if there were any things brought up at that committee.
No, I mean, other than what we're going to bring up here today, no. There's nothing that was brought up that was extraordinary. We talked about the management letter comments, and I think that that's something that you may want to address, Carlos. We talked about the audit report and the presentation. We talked about the fund balances and the days of operations. And so I do have some comments regarding the variances that I will share with you when that time comes in the next few minutes or so.
But what you're going to share, Judge, isn't coming from the committee. It's your own.
Well, it's kind of a combination from the committee, because the questions I'm going to bring up now were brought up at the committee meeting as well.
I see.
Right.
Okay.
The committee met 2 weeks ago. This is a newly formed committee. There was a former audit committee with some of the members no longer employed by the county. That makes it a little difficult. And then during the period of this audit, the committee did not meet. And at that point in time, the auditor was not part of that committee. And the prior year, when the committee met, the auditor was not included in these meetings, so I had to work with the independent auditor on what directions the audit committee was going. So based on this, we're trying to take a new direction of improved accountability and working with the audit committee on the new process. So we hope that this audit report, this comprehensive or basic financial statements, are fairly easy to read. We still have to get used to the new format, but on page 19 is a management discussion and analysis which deals a lot more with the individual funds and its changes and perceived increases and decreases in fund balances and activities. This report covers well over 100 funds and activities, over 38 elected officials' operations, and so there may be areas in which each commissioner may want some more detail on, and I'd like to sit with you once you've had the opportunity to read with it and answer your questions and get you the detail that you need. But I guess this is a good time to open it up for questions.
Well, I do want to say that page 19 helped me a lot. I'm not a CPA, but at least I knew as I went through the different sections, this helped me. This was like an overview for me, so that was extremely helpful. I appreciate that.
What I'd like to approach next year is to work with someone who's more versed in editing and communications to help us simplify this. I believe fewer words and fewer technical jargon would best serve this document. Sometimes we write on too high of a level because we know what's going on, and my goal is to present a report that can be understood by most all.
Well, I don't think so much a higher level, Mark. It's just that it's vocabulary from a different category of professions.
Right.
It's not that it's higher level.
I understand. Mr. Burr, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
I would like for Carlos to address the management letter comments and your findings on that, but for now, this was brought up during the meeting. If you go to, I guess, where the variances start.
Right.
And
we've had this discussion with regards to...
Who's we?
Well, subsequent to your audit committee, I sat down with Mr. Barrera and we discussed it, and I discussed it with my staff. This is a familiar format that has been in place. We've used it 7 or 8 years. It was born originally from some GFOA comments. However, having looked at this and taken in the context of some of your issues with regard that was discussed at the audit committee, is that this report is needed to make decisions, ascertain where we are, and we're looking to make that change for next year to report the actual variances and not necessarily...
And that's fine, and what we're talking about specifically are the revenue items. When you go to the variances, and just for the members of the court, I think there's been a misinterpretation of what GFOA requires, and I spoke to some GFOA people, and they said, no, you do show the variances. You don't zero them out.
Right.
I talked to Mr. Barrera subsequent to that, and I know that their firm does several GFOA clients like our firm does as well, and this is the first one that I've seen where they zero out.
Right.
So it's very difficult, and I think what you've indicated is that we cannot, the elected officials and department heads that get a copy of this budget are not going to be able to tell how they perform because all the variances zero out. In other words, everybody followed their budget to the penny. There was no overages, no underages, and we know that that's not accurate. We know that that's not right.
Well, you're correct, and the fact that the variances show zero, and that is why we show the original budget.
Well, but no. But see, the original is the original budget that's adopted.
Right.
on 10-1, then there should be another, you have budget amendments frequently throughout the year.
We agree with you, and we want to make that change for next year.
Well, and that's fine. I don't want to have to redo the report, but I think that when you start providing all the department heads and the elected officials, you need to show them their final budget prior to these items being zeroed out.
I
Can you do
agree
that?
with you.
Okay.
And we sent each department via email on PDF attachment their September 30th unadjusted, unzeroed out budget so that they have that for decision making.
Okay, but wait a minute. It should be the adjusted, the
Right.
final adjusted prior to...
Unzeroed out. Let's
Right,
put it that way.
unzeroed out. And I think that way they'll be able to compare what their department really did versus what was budgeted. And that's the only thing that I have. The report looks good. I
We
have got no
concur.
issues with it. Other than those things, it's not really giving us a real clear picture as to really what each department did.
We
Okay?
concur.
All right, so with that, Mr. Barrera, if you'd like, just kind of go over what we talked about at the committee meeting, the findings and
In the olden days, we used to have a separate report detached from the annual report of the findings, the management's comments. In the past 7 or 8 years, we've attached it at the back end of the book because it's very easy just to handle one book, and that way we know from year to year what our issues
and
are.
that's the little one here.
Well, yes,
Correct.
and then also the findings on the back.
And Mark, Mark, you bring up the issue that we've attached the findings and the stuff toward the back of the book, which I reviewed. Following the judge's line of thought on the variances and zeroing out the budgets, how long have we been zeroing them out like this?
It's 7 or 8 years.
I can recall, I can provide you
Was whenever
documents.
GASB 34,
Right.
yeah, right? This is
The report changed significantly 3 years ago with the implementation of GASB 34. That's where I'd like to start and move forward because the report changed significantly. And I know that where you see the zeroing out is in an unaudited section called required supplementary information. So it's not necessarily audited. It doesn't necessarily change the material representation here. And so the report changed in, I believe, 2003 significantly when we implemented GASB 34. Now, if we have an incorrect interpretation, we'd be glad to make it changed. So
We weren't zeroing them out with a column like this prior to that time.
we did zero out in some areas. I have to get back with you exactly how far back that goes.
Kind of wondering.
It's been a number of years. It was that way last year.
And I think for our purposes, you know, as far as department heads, elected officials, and if this was happening prior to that, I never picked up on it, but
Right.
but I think that, you know, in the future, we just need to look at it so we can tell what each department is doing.
I agree with you.
I got as a matter of fact, I'll get it to you right off the Blue Book, and
Yes.
and they showed the variances. So Blue Book is, well, it's accounting talk.
We'll be glad to make a
Okay,
change.
I'll give that to you, and that's where we do that, okay? Mr. Barrera, thank you.
If it pleases the court, let me, if I could, before I get into the findings, there was one issue, I think Commissioner Tamayo had said that the management discussion analysis was very helpful, and I think when you read the report, to me, especially with the change in GASB 34, which we've now had for 3 years, to me the most important financial statement is found on page 31. And that is the government-wide statement of activities. And what that is a bird's eye view of the entire operation of the county. And what it does in a very, very simple format, it looks at the governmental activities, the primary government, and also the business type activities. It tells the reader, for example, in that first column, the expenses, how much does it take to run the county? So if you look down, for example, the government activities on the primary government, it's $107 million. And then the next group, which is the business type activities, the bridge, parks, and other non-major enterprise, it's another 15. So together, it's $122 million. And then from there, the reader says, okay, but how are we paying for that? And so as you move from left to right, you can see, for example, well, you're receiving charges for services. You're billing out some things to pay for all of these activities. So, for example, on the general government side, you're getting about $25.7 million. to cover those expenses. You're also getting operating grants and revenues of another $19 million, and another $4 million in capital grants and contributions. So overall, by the time it's over, your general government, just with that, is still short $57 million. So then, how does one pay for that? So therefore, you look at, and you also go down to that second part on the business activities. You can see on the business activities, you've got $15 million of expenditures, but your business activities are actually yielding you about $8 million worth of profit.
9.6.
9.6, thank you. And so as a result, when you get down to it, you look at that total column, the second to the last column. You'll see 57 and you see 8.9. You'll see about $48 million that in effect the county has to come up with, and that's coming from, for example, property taxes, where you go down the bottom, property taxes, general purpose debt service, unrestricted investment earnings, miscellaneous, sale of capital assets, transfers, all of that. That's where the money comes from in effect to balance your budget and or to give you a budget surplus. That's how this works.
Carlos, I think what you may want to mention on the miscellaneous side,
Right.
we talked about that. What's included in that 13?
The $13 million, the biggest chunk of that is $8.6 million, which is the amount of the settlement that you got on the jail.
That's right.
That's what you got in the current year.
And of that $8 million, there's $4 million put into the general fund balance.
Right.
Right.
That's why
So we're not going to have that chunk next year unless we sue somebody else and win.
You know, without the $4 million, the fund balance did grow $1.2 million, almost 1.3.
Right. Yeah, you have a fund balance right now of $7.5 million in your general fund. So, and we were saying if you had taken that out, you'd be down to 3.5. I think, where was that, Mark? Page 9? Yeah, if you look over,
7.5 would be 3.5 without that.
yeah, it'd be 3.5 without that. And so you would have grown about 1.1 million during the current year, assuming that had not happened. As you stand right now with your fund balance, you're up at about 45 days. Again, if you're looking at page 9, that's where you're looking at this days of operation.
And that's in
That's in your...
the introductory letter.
Right. Up from 15 the prior year, but a lot of that is the fact that you transferred such a large amount of money in there. So, but I think your bond counsel, your bond advisors are advised, is it 45 or 60 days, isn't it?
Well, our policy stipulates 16% of 60 days. That's what we're trying to approach, 60 days of operation, in all funds if possible.
And just so we keep in mind, as we start developing the budget, of that 13 million that we have as miscellaneous, we're not going to have 8.6 million of that. So we're going to have to make it up someplace else, either through cutting expenses or through ad valorem or whatever it is. So I wanted you to be specific with that, because that's not going to be a fixed number that we're going to have every
Well, our
single
fund
year.
balance is not going to grow another $5 million.
Right.
It most likely will grow if we don't spend the funds on these, about $780,000 from the sale of property on 511. That was recognized as revenue, not appropriated, but will fall in the fund balance.
But at the same time, we pulled some out to go into surplus, but the rest is earmarked for a specific project. It's not like it was spent right off the bat.
Correct. It's in another
Okay?
fund.
It's in another fund to be utilized for the jail repairs that we need to work on, which I hope we have on the agenda by next week.
Right. Well, there are still approximately $11 million of settlement funds in the capital projects fund for that purpose, plus approximately $4 million in other capital project bond proceeds.
So we didn't go out and spend that miscellaneous income that came in. Basically,
No, we didn't spend it.
we didn't. We allocated it to surplus, and we allocated it.
But
For
the
the project.
expenditures on the jail haven't been budgeted either. Have they?
No.
No.
Right, so it's going to be a wash.
Well, it's going to be a wash, but the
Basically.
money's there,
Right.
hopefully.
The money's there, but I think the only concern, and this is something that we raised in audit committee last year, in that, the concern was brought up about the fund balance and how it had dipped. And I remember discussion with the audit committee at that time was, yes, you're going to have the sale of a property that had nothing to do with the jail proceeds or the lawsuit settlement, and there was these monies coming in from the sale of some land that was surplus to the county. I said, well, that's fine, but what are you doing going forward, because in effect, if you're talking about cost and growth of the county and expenditure growth, you only have two options. I mean, there's only so many assets you can sell that you don't need that's going to generate some cash. The only other issue is you either have to curtail your expenditures or find somewhere you can budget a lower amount somehow, or enhance your revenues some way. That's it.
Yeah,
So,
there's only several places to go for more revenues, and I think it's a common belief that going to the taxpayers is a very difficult place to go for additional revenues or additional rate increases. And so the county needs to be very innovative with its rate increases, but also look to new revenues and new fees, perhaps for to match fees with actual service paid. And so I think there is a good effort at this stage to develop more revenues on enterprise-based activities.
right.
Yeah, which is the same place as a taxpayer, right?
Right.
I mean, you can charge them more to cross the bridge, or you can increase your taxes, you got revenues. Or you can add a fee to whatever document they're filing with the county, with the county clerk. It's like fee after fee after fee.
Well, you're right. It's a lot like purchasing a passport or enhanced services.
Yep.
If we can provide a service that they're willing to pay for, then that's where we should be.
The other part of the audit, let me just, and to make sure everybody understands what external auditors do and don't do. I think there's a lot of confusion in the general public about that. When you look at your table of contents, which is right at the beginning of the report, there's 5 sections to this 308-page document. There's this introductory section, which we talk about this letter of transmittal, which Commissioner Tamayo found very useful. The old GFOA certificate from the prior year that you got. Then there's the financial section, which is my report, and then there's this MD&A, this management discussion analysis, which Mark has prepared, that pretty much summarizes it in layman's terms as far as what happened during the year. Then the basic financial statements. That's my responsibility to issue an opinion on those. After that, the required supplementary information, which is major, and this is where this budget to actual and all this other stuff comes in. The statistical, which is becoming a major headache for a lot of government entities because they're going so far back, 10 years now, and more audit, or more and more schedules of God only knows what, how many books in the library, et cetera, et cetera.
It could be as detailed as, and something you're about to address and certify today, the number of roads, the number of miles of roads maintained, how they grew, 10 years of data. It could be as detailed as number of volumes in your law library. And so the amount of statistical data that we keep or are required to keep is starting to grow significantly.
But there are some good information, there is a lot of good information in regards to ratios, debt service issues, things like that, that bond agents and Standard & Poor's and Moody's may want to look at. Then there's the last section, which is the single audit report. That is the report also that is my responsibility to come to you and say, okay, you've got state and federal awards, what are you doing with them? And the bad thing about an auditor and about public auditing, and the judge knows this just as well as I do, is that more and more of our time is devoted to compliance work. And I dare to say 80 to 85% of our work is in compliance with federal and state standards, because there is no leeway there. They're very, very critical, especially when you get into the federal side. And a lot of these cognizant agents that award you money are very specific with respect to how you're supposed to utilize that money. So if you look on 285, that's the beginning of that section. Now, there's 2 parts to that section, and there's like 3 opinion letters that I issue. Keep in mind that from your internal side, internal control side, we didn't have any problems. We did have some findings, and sometimes these findings can take a question cost finding, which means that we found expenditures that were made that weren't in accordance with the grant agreement, and if that's the case, then you owe it back to the government. We didn't have any of that, so we didn't have any of those kind of findings. You will see that, though, on page 297, that we did have some findings, though, and these were more from the standpoint of if it didn't agree with a certain parameter within the grant, we'd have to say this is a finding and we have to report it. So there were 3 of them. The 3 findings are on page 297. I don't know if I want me to go into detail, but one was based upon dealing with cash management. which is that first one. You can see where, and it's pretty explanatory. And also, a little bit later on, you have the response from Cameron County as far as what they're going to do to try to correct
What
that.
page was that, I'm sorry?
Starting on 297.
297.
There was one, again, dealing with cash management, another one dealing with the reporting of certain funds, and another one dealing with subrecipient monitoring. Now, how these findings are arrived at are somewhat confusing as well, because you have an array of government, federal and state funds and grants that you get. So we have to go and test, based upon a formula, certain ones coming from a large group and a small group. In one particular year, this year, we hit one particular group and one particular grant that we hadn't seen in 3 years. And we had most of our findings, if not all the findings, pertain to that one particular group. So that's where that came from. It happens. You don't see it for a while, and things happen, but luckily there wasn't anything to the point where I would think there would be like a question cost that you would have to be concerned about. However, there are issues, and again, they have to be reported in the report itself, and I think they're there for your perusal. Along those same lines, when you get to the management letter had a couple of comments in there as well, and they all basically kind of followed in the same context. They pertain to CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant. We had one issue on the reconciliation to the general ledgers. We didn't think that was done in a timely way or in a proper way. Another one had the timely requirement for reimbursements of these funds that we thought there was a little bit of a problem with, and also the timely deposit of funds that you had received on one particular project. We felt that those were not timely deposited, and that eventually could lead up into a more complicated mess and a more serious problem if they weren't addressed currently. Those are the ones we had. We didn't have any state findings. It was just federal. Aside from that, on the normal audit, any other findings we might have had, we've already talked to Mark about it. There may have been, a lot of times we may find something we determine to be a question. We sit with Mark and determine whether or not, are we looking at this correctly or not. If he's got a good explanation, we leave it alone. If he doesn't, then we write it up, or we go one step further and take it to audit committee. We didn't have that at this point, but those are the ones that we did come up with.
I have a
Sure.
question, Judge. When they find, or maybe our county administrator can answer this, when these findings take place and we find out, for instance, we were not complying with cash management requirements and so on, who does a follow-up in-house so that that doesn't happen again? I mean, who's going to be tracking this?
Well, normally Mark would do that, and then the auditors would come back the subsequent year and go back to these findings and go back and make sure that whatever corrective action Mark said they're going to do was done. That's what's normally done.
We
They'll
work,
go back
the
following.
independent auditors come in prior to the audit engagement. They do some preliminary work. We sit down, we plan the audit, we look over last year's activities, we review last year's report in most cases, and then we plan for where we're going to hit as far as areas. And then based on his education or his particular experience in other audits, he may want to look at other areas too, and then there is a general cycle. But a lot of the compliance testing that is performed is on state and federal grants and programs, and we do have probably 45 to 50 of these things.
If you look on page 308, Commissioner, last year our findings were state findings, not federal. It's like the opposite. You just never know what you're going to hit. And we had, I think, 1, 2, 3 findings last year. You will see that, we had 5 findings, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In the 5 findings, we go through every one of those findings and find out what the corrective actions that were taken, determine whether or not they have been alleviated. All of them have been done. So, and that, we have to report on that they have been taken care of, and we didn't find them this year. So,
Thank you.
I think that's it.
So that's the follow-up.
I'm sorry?
That's the
That's the follow-up that takes
Yeah,
place.
it's the follow-up. So if they didn't do it, then we'd write it up again, and then it'd be another finding.
Right. We're looking at improving our accounts receivable process this year, how we track the reports that are sent out through various departments, and to make sure that we understand that when the money does come in, it's automatically recognized. So we're going to work with the departments who provide those reports and to do a better job of make sure that deposits are timely. Occasionally, the state will send a check where we're used to them sending an ACH transfer. And so when we have a report sitting out there and a check has been sent, sometimes we do not know that it's sitting in some person's office in their file. So we would prefer that the state be very consistent in their transfer of funds rather than checks here in this grant and then ACH and several others. It makes it a little difficult to track the receipts.
In the current year, when we were under audit with you all, you had a lot of auditors going around. You had us, you had someone from the state, wasn't it?
We had the indigent health care auditors from the Department of State Health Services. We had auditors from KPMG who are looking at the narcotics grants. And then there was one other set of auditors that escapes me at this stage.
And then we had auditors in our office from the Office of Inspector General looking at the audit from the prior year with respect to the federal and state awards and what we did and what was done at the county level. And so we were getting audited, you were getting audited, we all got audited.
And we welcome any inquiry that the general public has on any particular claim or any interest that the commissioners want greater detail on. We want to find the information for you so you have the best information available.
Mr. Barrera, did you indicate that the findings you had in this report that we kind of went over pretty quickly here, that there was a management letter that goes along with those findings?
That is the second one I was telling you about.
Well, that's the part I don't think we've received.
I don't have that either. I just saw yours.
No, we haven't got
So
that.
we're not aware of that.
I'll make sure you get it. I
we
will
got
provide
that.
to the audit committee.
It doesn't say much.
Well,
I apologize for you not getting that.
I haven't seen it, it's got the
I don't know what it
findings.
says.
Thank you.
It's got.
We'll make sure that you
They
get
just
that
went over
tomorrow.
that.
I apologize for you not getting it. I wanted to make sure you had the audit
I just got it.
at least a couple of weeks in advance so you could look at it.
Well, I think both of them were delivered about the same time, weren't they?
See, I didn't get that.
I apologize
No,
for
no,
that. I'll make sure you get it
Unreasonable that we wouldn't have
tomorrow.
gotten the other one at the same time also.
I didn't get the little stamp.
We'll make sure you get
I'll
that
pass
tomorrow.
mine on, please.
Mr. Barrera,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm new to all of this, so in the past, you've mentioned that you were doing the auditing, we were getting audited here, and you were getting audited in your office. And it was just all regarding county expenditures and...
The Office of Inspector General, from time to time, looks at auditors' work files, just to make sure that we are complying with standards. It's no fun to have them in your office for 3 days, two of them, because they're second-guessing what you've done. But we had two individuals that came in last summer and were looking at the 204 and wanted to see the report from 205, which was the prior year. They literally went through our entire single audit report as well as our regular audit, but they were concentrated on the single audit. And we got a closing letter from them several months ago, right before the audit of this that began, and they had no findings, so which we were pretty happy about.
So overall, everything was okay?
Well, from our standpoint, we felt pretty good because we knew we were complying with standards. So, and as the county judge would know, that's a relief in yourself because you never know if you missed something and if you didn't do something right according to what they're looking at. But yes, and I haven't seen any other reports from any other agencies that have come in that would say otherwise.
Could you explain to the commission the type of audit opinion you issued?
That
and
would be
what it
good, wouldn't it? The audit report, or the audit opinion that I get, that you have received, which is found on page 17, I'm sorry, is a clean report. It's what they call an unqualified opinion. Don't ask me why in our profession we keep something that's clean called unqualified. It seems like it should be qualified, it should be excellent. It's called unqualified because it is. There's no qualification to it, there's no exception to it. So in effect, if you look at that third paragraph, it basically says that we determined or we opined that your financial statements are, in all material respects, if you look at all of them, that they're fairly presented consistently from year to year, and that they follow conformity with generally accepted accounting principles that are followed in the United States. So in effect, it's a clean opinion. There is no obstruction, which is good.
Thank you.
Mark, I think this question is for you. I have a question. Did the county lose any money due to the fact that we were late in filing reimbursements?
I'll have to get back with you on that issue.
Please do.
Right.
I want that answer.
I'll give that to you in writing because I want to make sure that we're addressing the right grant on that issue.
My concern is on grants that might end and then we lose money
Right.
because we didn't get reimbursed.
Yeah, there is a potential of certain grants or not receiving all the reimbursements that are necessary. So instead of giving you a blanket response and say no, I'd like to give you the detail on the one that's specifically addressed there.
Just a couple of, and this is for Mr. Barrera. As we get ready for the next audit, go through the process, I'd like to have the audit committee provided with a draft of the report so we can look at it prior to the final, number one. Number two, I think it's important that there's no reason why everybody in the court did not receive the management letter along with the audit report. It should be automatic. But I will tell you that based on the past audit reports, I think this is probably the first time that Mr. Barrera has been asked to present, number one. Number two, I think it's the first time that at least a management letter has been provided. I never saw it, I've been here for 4 years.
Well, my preference is that they're all in one book. So that,
And they ought to be, like, as you said, they ought to be in the back, because these findings here, not all of the findings that are here are over here. I have one question regarding the management letter. Everything else I think was pretty boilerplate, but when you go to the third finding, and I'll just read it to you very briefly you all found 2 checks from the comptroller's office have been sitting there since August and October of 2006. And then January 31st, they were found. So I guess and Mark, I think your response was that we'll ensure that all reimbursements, get transmitted to the treasurer's office. What procedure have you or are you going to implement to make sure that we don't have checks sitting there for 90 or 120 days? Make sure they get them.
The situation, which I'm not going to get into the details, is that when Mr. Barrera's assistant was reviewing certain program files, in that file and these weren't files in my office, they were files in another department from my recollection, is that they were sitting attached to correspondence. My preference is to work with the state so that ACH, all reimbursements are provided to the county via ACH so that we know that the money comes into the county's account. The difficulty is that ACH transfers don't come with a lot of description. We have to find the exact report that matches that deposit amount. We are going to look at our accounts receivable process and try to route all reports through one single focus and report a revenue at the time the report is filed and a receivable, so that if at the year end I have a large amount of receivables uncleared through cash deposits, then we will be better off tracking those down, knowing that I have a number of different deposits either not paid by the state or sitting in a file somewhere. And so it gives us a point of inventory to look for those particular transactions.
And, okay, that sounds nice, but...
Well, that's what we're looking at implementing. We worked with we're working with the district clerk on implementing accounts receivable.
Okay, are you telling me that on this particular project, the receivables were not booked?
Well, when the report is filed, a receivable is not booked as far as the revenue. At that stage, we usually book it when it comes in. We're looking at the point of the report is generated, then...
To book the receivable?
To book a receivable.
So then you had no way of knowing in December that you had an outstanding receivable out there? Or you know, you would have had an outstanding receivable on your books, but the check would have been sitting in somebody's desk.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so...
And not in my office.
Right, but did your office have access to know whether or not that receivable was still open?
If we had taken all the reports that were submitted by all the departments and inventoried them as they left, then we would have known. But that's a process that we're implementing and trying to develop procedures this summer to make sure that all the reports funnel through our office and that we inventory them as they leave the county so that we know to the state agency how much we're asking for. And sometimes we get money back that doesn't match the exact report due to changes that the state would have.
But that would show us a variance of some sort.
Well, that would show us a variance, and it also give me a better tracking method to work with all the number of the departments that have specific grants. I mean, for example, the beach cleanup and things of that nature. When reports are brought to us to sign, we do sign, we do verify it, for example, the beach cleanup. But what we need to do is book it at that time and then wait for it. Because typically, the custom has been to book it when it comes in. But at the year end, if the funds do not come in, for example, State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, we know that we've applied for a grant, but we do not, and booking that amount might be difficult. It's still out there, and we can estimate, but it hasn't arrived.
Just out of curiosity, how much was this? Was it material?
I don't have a recollection on the amount.
It was a good chunk.
Like our Attorney General.
If it was a road
I wish
project,
I could remember, Judge, I can't. It was a good chunk.
if it was a road project, which that's what it
It was
says.
not a road, it was a home project.
Pardon?
It was a home project, a CBDG type of project.
Well, from all of this conversation, and I'm going to simplify things because that's what I do. Number one, we've got to make sure that requests for reimbursement are done in a timely manner,
Right.
so that we don't lose money. And number two, then we need to make sure that those checks get to where they're supposed to go.
Absolutely.
In the bank.
And I concur with you.
Two things. Simple.
Right. And I'm there with you
Simple
on that
doesn't
issue.
necessarily mean easy, so
Yeah. It's a simple
we
concept,
need to make sure it
but
happens.
when you're dealing with 38 elected officials and dealing with over 40 to 50 different federal and state grants, things do happen. This is not a perfect report. There are flaws in this. There are errors, but we believe that this is a fairly good report to rely on.
In a nutshell, we got a clean opinion, and for those of y'all that, once you lose that unqualified opinion, it's very hard to get it back. So, thank you, Mr. Badell, to the firm. Mark, thank you and your staff for...
We've had an
hard work that
unqualified
you did.
opinion for the last 14 years that I'm aware of.
Well,
So,
let's keep the trend going, all right?
you bet.
Do I hear a motion to acknowledge report and accept the fiscal year 2006 audit report? Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 3, consideration and adoption of a resolution recognizing Ms. Sandra Sweeney Wilson, recipient of the 2007 Girl Scouts Woman Distinction Award. Do I hear a motion to acknowledge and adopt the resolution? Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 4, presentation and acknowledgement of District Clerk's January, February, March 2007 monthly fee, fines, and criminal reports.
Judge and Commissioners, this is just to acknowledge the district clerk's reports.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Wood, to accept the District Clerk's January, February, and March 2007 monthly fee, fines, and criminal reports. All in favor, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Consent items and travel items. Are there any items that any member of the court wishes to take out of order?
Judge,
Discuss separately. Yes.
item number 7 needs to be pulled out of consent.
All right?
Item number 8 needs to be tabled. Item number 24 needs to be pulled out of consent, and item number 27 needs to be pulled out of consent.
Judge, item 8 or 12 needs to be pulled out.
Okay, hold on. 24, pull out. 27, pull out to discuss separately. What was the other one, Richard?
I need 12.
Number 12, to pull out, discuss separately.
Can we pull out 8 instead of table, please, so we can discuss it? Carlos?
That's fine. Let's take, let's pull out 8. We're going to discuss it anyway. Okay?
6. Okay.
6, it's pulled out. Anything else? Anything on travel? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the consent items and the travel items, travel line 29A through 29P? Do I hear a motion on those? Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
Judge,
Moved by,
would it be possible to hear item number 39? I know we've got some people here in the audience that might appreciate the opportunity to get through with their issue and go home, I guess.
okay, any objection? We can take item 39 out. Discussion and possible action regarding the Father O'Brien Health Clinic and Brownsville Community Health Clinic services.
Very well.
Yes, sir.
Eventually, Pablo and I would like to address you for a very couple of minutes, very few minutes. Before I commence, I would like to greet everybody, Mayor Commissioner Tamayo, Commissioner Gatsa, Commissioner Wood, and Commissioner Benavides, Judge Dancing, wherever you are, great person, and Judge Cascos, of course. You might be happy to know, and I'm a little nervous because every time I follow Mr. Yates, since I come from the generation of brutal economics, I get nervous with numbers. But you might be happy to know that we're here, thank you very much. We're here not to ask for any type of funding, isn't that great? Today, we might come back tomorrow, I don't know. We really are here to, one, to show our abundance of faith in your benevolence, Judge Cascos and Commissioners, in that we got lucky and we received some money from the Federales. To us, it's a lot of money, $90,000. To our doctors, it doesn't even cover a salary. But what we'd like to do with that money is to help more people out there in the Port Isabel area. I don't have to tell you because all of your politicians to an nth degree, and you understand the need for health services, especially in the area of primary care. And our solemn oath is to provide these needs with excellence and dignity. And we come to you to greet you and to thank you on behalf of all the board members. And our board members consist of everybody in this county. We got bankers in there, we got financial advisors. We're working on getting a migrant representative. We have a professor from the University of Texas. And believe it or not, we even have a family court judge, myself. Before I go on, Paulita, can you approach? Can you come over? Paulita knows the logistics of it, but we need your blessing. I have to apologize to Commissioner Tamayo because we haven't helped your people out there in your area, Commissioner Tamayo, and because we're relying on our brethren, Clínica Familiar, to help you. But I think we've helped some of yours, Commissioner Garza, and I know we've helped yours, Judge Cascos and Commissioner Woods and Commissioner Benavides. And there are a lot of other people that are asking for help out there. Believe it or not, we have quite a lot of indigent in our county. And thanks to Mr. Edelstein, he started it all. In fact, my first shot there, it wasn't an alcoholic shot, it was an immunization shot, what cost me 25 cents a long time ago. And thanks to him, well, now we have a clinic that's helping a lot of people. At this point, I'd like to introduce Paula, our director. And again, greetings from all the board members. They wanted to be here, but they're here in spirit. And then we have some of our staff here. Emily's here. I forget her last name because she's from up north, but she's real friendly and she helps us a lot. And then we got Sylvia. She kind of gets us our meetings together. We're having a meeting tomorrow, and we invite you to the meeting at 7 o'clock. Paulita?
Judge, first of all, I accept your apology, but I want you to help us.
Definitely.
Good evening, all of you, and thank you for putting us sooner on the agenda. That certainly helped. I just needed to give you an update. Yvette requested that I come before you and tell you where we are with the Father O'Brien Clinic. The Health Services District and Brownsville Community Health Center have been in communication and working together, trying to come up with the language that we need so that we can get the $90,000. We've agreed. There's just a little bit of a language that we have to agree on, and the signatures will be forthcoming. We should be able to start services for sure August 1st. We're shooting right now for June 1st. There's a lot of legwork that needs to happen between now and then, but that's our target date. If our new docs come on board by June, then that's what we'll do. We'll keep you posted on that. We will be coming back to you at your next meeting, hopefully, so that we can re-up the agreement that we had. The last time I came before this body, we did talk about how we wanted to expand the services. We were waiting for the money from the Health Services District. That should be coming, so now we need to just amend that agreement and change the date. So we'll come back to you with that. And I'll just open up for questions if you have any.
At this point, you couldn't give us a schedule you're going to keep, like, what days will you be open, what are the hours?
We're going to try to be open on, we're already there Monday mornings, so we're going to try to be open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I don't know that we'll have enough business to be open Friday as well, but as business picks up, we will open more hours, but essentially we'll be open up two and a half days
Out of the week?
Yes.
And what would the hours be, más o menos?
Más o menos 9 to 4, 9 to 4:30, Monday through Thursday.
Ms. Gomez, I have one question, or a couple of, I'm glad to see that this is occurring, because I've been on the commission for a number of years, and when I came on is when you exited out, you were moving out. But it's really good to see this clinic being utilized. The $90,000 that will be utilized for the operations, are those in any way, shape, or form being used to leverage any more funds for that clinic? Or is it just
We actually went
strictly-
the other way. What we did was we got another chunk of money, and the Health Services District actually is the match. The other piece was to come to you so that we could have the agreement. That's the collaborative.
Okay.
And so now we have a collaborative.
So the cost to provide the services that are going to be provided is a lot more than the $90,000.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right, yeah. And you leveraged approximately, and I think it's important for people to know that, because, we always try to leverage funds, whether it be in a park or any other type of activity where there's health services. If you can utilize your monies to leverage more money to come into the area and to provide services to those in need, that's what it's all about. Do you have any idea what the $90,000 leveraged for you?
Oh, yes.
Could you share that publicly?
Sure, yes. We have approximate $300,000.
How much?
$300,000. It's, over a long period of time,
Right.
but that's quite a bit of money to try to do this. It takes $225,000 just to open it up, and then additional dollars to do the things that we want to do, like help with pharmaceuticals, lab, x-rays. The reason it's going to take us a while to get it up and running, it's not just the staff, but we have to start working on agreements with the locals in the Port Isabel area, the pharmacies and the radiology services that are available in that community. That's not an overnight thing. It takes time.
Paula, and just some feedback. I realize that it's difficult to work with scheduling, but
Right.
what we have found, and we've been working with the telemedicine mobile unit, is that we also have the hours 9 to 4. And I got a lot of phone calls asking me if we could possibly at least once a week stay late, because people work. And most families that need this service only have one car, or the neighbor works, but after work the neighbor might bring them. That's one of the things that you might consider.
We'll take that into consideration. It's going to depend on how much the physicians or the providers can do
I realize
without the ancillary services. If we could have access to the lab and X-ray in the evenings, then it would be a little bit easier to pull it off. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. But we will discuss it.
I want to make sure we have to keep a good working relationship that's been established with the clinic for hundreds of years or more. And I think it'd be very helpful if you assign somebody that can work with Paula, so we can come up with the necessary words in order to commence the project as soon as possible. And you might be happy to learn that we don't reject anybody. Of course, we like people to go in there with insurance and stuff like that, but if they don't have insurance and they need the help, they're going to get it somehow.
I think all of us really appreciate the work that Brownsville Community Health Clinic does, and Paula's been there for a long time running it. And certainly it's attributed a lot also to your board, Paula, and I know you understand that, you know that. And we in the Brownsville area certainly have been the recipients for many years of the good works that have been done there, and the physicians that come in and work in the area and take care of our folks, take care of us. And certainly I'm looking forward to, as Commissioner Garcia is getting it back into Port Isabel, and working over there some. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sophie did come by last Friday to kind of get acquainted with what we do and asked a very basic question, are you going to be able to do all of this? And of course the answer is no, not right away. Hopefully at some point in the next few years we'll be able to build it up to that point. The beauty of it is that particular facility already has WIC services and has immunizations through the county, and that's a tremendous help.
And OBGYN services.
Well, yes, we're providing OBGYN services there too. So, thank you.
The $300,000 that you say that you used as leverage, are those federal funds?
They're federal funds. We got those about a year ago, and we have been pushing as hard as we can to get all the pieces together. Like I said, it takes time, unfortunately, going back and forth. And as you know, we really haven't known what the outcome of the Health Services District has been, so it's been difficult to move forward, but I think we're ready to do it now.
Besides the $90,000 that you got from the Health Services District, who else contributes to the clinic that you all operate here in Brownsville?
Well, we have dollars from the Hogg Foundation, from the Marguerite E. Casey Foundation, from, we have some state money through the Primary Health Care Department, and we have money through some special organizations that give us a little bit to do special projects.
Okay, but the city, the county doesn't?
The city provides at the 22nd Street facility, they provide us with the land and the building and utilities.
Okay, but the county?
We're going to fix up the parking lot, because we had several accidents there when people get out there on wheelchairs.
Yeah.
A lot of holes around them.
When I was there, I think Mr. Ayala called you, right, regarding that. I would definitely like to see that this county consider, contributing to the running of you're going to be working in the Port Isabel area and attending to our residents. So I don't know if it's feasible, but I think maybe it's something that we should look into as far as...
We are going to be providing the facility.
That's correct.
We are going to be providing the utility and a nice parking that's ADA
very
compliant.
Nice. That's right.
What I wish to comment, I appreciate the tenacity you've had in working this project through, Paula, because it would have been real easy to just say, it was difficult. And I appreciate the Rio Grande Valley Health Services District Board for having the foresight to expend some of the dollars that they have sitting in the bank, doing not much.
Hopefully they're going to do a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is I think this is an example of what that district can do in leveraging funds to help us provide the services that are needed. And, I just think that, I personally would like to publicly thank the Health Services District for going ahead and agreeing to these and doing this project with you all over there to make it happen.
Well, I'm going to take some liberty here that possibly I shouldn't, but I will. I think really it's due to the tenacity of the Commissioner's Court in Cameron County that the Health Services District is still where it's at, because if it hadn't been for that, we certainly didn't have the support from the Hidalgo County area. So, hopefully, something positive will continue. I don't know what it's going to look like in the future, but certainly the concept, I think, is good.
Well, the outcome is now at the legislative level for us. And what they do, this legislative session will allow us to determine how we proceed with the district.
Well, I'm going to light a candle for all of us.
Please do.
Judge,
Thank
and
you,
you
Paula.
mentioned the fact, excuse me.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Judge, you mentioned the fact, and I hope that someone from the county, I think you said, could work with us. And I think both of you realize that when I got a phone call from you, within 48 hours, we had a meeting. And you really don't have to call me or any of us. Yvette Salinas is our health director. She's proactive. All you have to do is call her, and she'll meet with you.
She has been. We've been communicating.
So that's not
daily,
a
but
problem.
almost daily.
We're ready to communicate with you.
Thank you.
Incidentally, all of you have an open invitation to our clinic and our meeting. We meet every Wednesday, every third Wednesday of the month or second, something like that. I forget, and I'm the chairman. And all of you are welcome to go visit us at any time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I be excused, Judge Cascos?
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Judge, I move that we approve the services to be provided at the Portersville Health Clinic.
Second.
That was moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo to, whatever it is you're making a motion for. Approve the provided services. Any further discussion? Yvette, did you have something to add?
Just a point of clarification. The contract is between Brownsville Community Health Center and the Valley Health Service District, but the profile of Valley Health Service District is due to expire at the end of August. So it's possible we will come before the court and have a contract with Brownsville Community Health Center for the remainder of the 1 year.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other items any member of the court wishes to take out of order in case somebody's catch a flight or anything? No? Okay. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session? I'm sorry?
We had a motion, didn't we?
Yeah, but then John took something, okay. Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Gatsa to discuss 5 items. Confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning management and purchase issues with the International Bridge System on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter pursuant to Code Section 551.0712. Item B, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 9 for right-of-way for the FM 106 project pursuant to Government Code Section 551.072. Item C, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcels 18, 20, 22, 23, 24, and 25 for right-of-way for the FM 106 project pursuant to Code Section 551.072. Item D, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 1 for right-of-way for the West Rail project pursuant to Code Section 551.072. Lastly, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 2 for right-of-way for the West Rail project pursuant to Code Section 551.072. We will be back. Session.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item A, confer with the Commissioners Court Legal Counsel regarding the management purchase issues with the International Bridge System. Do I hear a motion to acknowledge the report of our county administrator?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item B, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 9 for the right-of-way for the FM 106 project. Richard, what's the motion need to be?
To accept the,
Appraised amount at $6,946.
Okay, that's your motion,
That's
Commissioner
fine.
Wood? Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item C, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcels 18, 20, 22, 23, 24, and 25 for the right-of-way of FM 106. Do you have a motion, Commissioner?
Move to approve for 49,551.
Second.
49,551.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa.
That's the expenses for relocating the fences. However, we're going to accept a donation of the property itself.
Yes.
Free of charge.
Okay, second by Commissioner Tamayo. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item D, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 1 for the right-of-way of the West Rail project. Do I hear a motion?
Table, no discussion.
Do I have a second to table? Tabled by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item E, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 2 for right-of-way of the West Rail project. Do I hear a motion
Motion.
to acknowledge?
To approve.
No, we...
Oh, ready to approve it? Do I hear a motion to approve?
$14,770?
That's your motion, Commissioner?
Yes.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. To the items that were pulled out of the consent, item 6, consideration and authorization for the county administrator to begin the process of changing the name of E&M Cantu Road to Share 28 Road in Precinct 3 area. Commissioner, you wanted to pull this one out?
Yeah, and I realize the folks there have encountered a lot of different changes on that road in the history of the road, but it seems to me that another change would just create more problems and more controversy in that area.
Pete, do you want to follow there was a petition, apparently, to rename the road back. Apparently, the way I understand it, the county policy was not followed in regards to the changing of this road. Okay. And in speaking with the folks that had the road named after them, I received this letter today from them that I shared with you all. They don't have any problems going back. The people that live on the road are cognizant of the fact it's going to have a little bit of disruption, but they want their old name back. So it's here for the court's approval, and so that's what's up.
The group of folks that have been very adamant about the name change from the beginning asked and called if they needed to be here to express their support of naming or renaming the road or keeping their old name back. And I told them that the agenda item today was to discuss between the commissioners the process and where we wanted to go. I know Pete and I have had meetings with some of the family members. They were very adamant about the fact that if their father would know that there was a disruption caused to individuals living anywhere, he would have never agreed to this. He says, my dad was the type of guy that would not want to inconvenience anyone, much less create chaos on a road and have hundreds of people upset because a road was named after him. And that's where the letter has finally come to, and we've got it here now. The individuals, and maybe it was a mistake to ask them not to be here, but...
I don't think so.
But this is just to begin the process to, I guess, revert back.
And I guess what I'm talking about or want to talk about or address is that if it wasn't done appropriately to start with, then I don't see a renaming back, but nullify what was done in the past, if that's a possibility. I guess it doesn't make any difference which way we go. It ends up the same.
Well, I don't know that it was not done appropriately. The county policy was not followed. I think legal gave an opinion that there was a different way to go about it in changing the name of the road, and not the normal county policy.
That's correct. County policy went above and beyond what's required legally to change the road, and the road is changed right now legally, so we can't just nullify it, but we did not follow our typical county policy as I understand it.
So then we need to work to get it name changed back and act on that. Can that come back to us next week, or is that something that's going to take some while to do? You do your postings, you do your signs, you do your talking to people, you've got...
We begin with the petitions from the residents.
Are already,
right.
We already have those.
Now, I have...
Postings and your signs, the posts and everything. So whenever you get it back...
Public hearing, yes.
Okay, I have a question. We do have a policy in place. Do we have a policy in place?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I know we do, but I just wanted that documented. My second question is, if we follow the policy as written, are we going to still have a problem if people come back and say, no, I don't want it named in that manner and want to reverse it? Are we going to be going back and forth? I mean, I think if we follow policy, I think we need to be sure that we don't keep going through this type of thing. Or do we need to change the policy to make sure that we don't have this problem? Quite frankly...
Well, the reason we have the problem is because we didn't follow policy.
Yes, but my question is the policy clear enough to where we won't have this problem.
Well, I think if we follow the county policy, we'll have a public hearing, we'll notify the residents that are going to be impacted by this change, and that gives them the opportunity to come before the court and either voice, their approval or disapproval of the name change. I think what the county did back in September, October, whenever the process was done, was believe we advertised one time in the local newspaper. And so what we heard from the residents is that a lot of them were not aware that the name had even been changed.
But what Mr. Burst is saying is, we acted according to state law.
Correct.
Not
But not
local
county.
policy. Okay, right, correct. Not county policy.
So that means
Non-county
that
policy.
from September, October, when it took place, to now, the name has been changed, but these people have never changed their addresses?
What I've heard from several of the residents is that the street sign itself, we changed that. A lot of the residents did not change their addresses, waiting to see if the new administration would reverse the decision that was made by the previous administration. And so that's where we're at today.
Okay, so petitions were brought before UP?
They were submitted to the county judge's office.
Yes, we all got copies of the petitions. Numerous.
Okay.
I don't think I got it.
We can
Was the
kill this.
motion made already?
Yeah, no, let me entertain a motion to authorize the county administrator to begin the process of changing the name back to, from E&M Cantu Road to Share 28 Road. And let's follow the county policy, which I think is a lot stricter and a lot more elaborate than state law. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa.
Second.
Do I have a second by Commissioner Tamayo? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 7, consideration.
Judge, before
Yes, ma'am.
that,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
would like to acknowledge and compliment the Cantu family, and they're listed here, for taking this action. And I just want to make that public.
They're honorable folks.
Very
You know.
honorable folks.
Yeah, they are. I met with Larry Cantu this morning in Los Fresnos, and he provided the letter, and he was very cordial, and I think he said exactly what Commissioner Gatsa said. So anyway, all right, all in favor? Okay. Item 7, consideration approval of an agreement between DOS Logistics and Cameron County for professional services. Who wants to pull that
Judge
one
and
out?
Commissioners, there are some recommendations from legal department. Number 1 is on paragraph 2.01, to remove there from thereof. Paragraph 13.01, to include a 30-day termination clause. Item number 3, delete paragraph 15.02. Paragraph 18.01, numbers 1 and 2, change that. That should read the County of Cameron. Item number 5, delete paragraph 20.01. Paragraph 23.01, include under notices the county judge for Cameron County and the president of those logistics, and to add the paragraph that is standard on county agreements on the availability of funding. With those changes, staff recommends approval.
And the correction of the county judge's name on the document?
Correct, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatsa. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 8, consideration approval of an interlocal agreement between Cameron County and Harlingen Water Works.
Judge, Commissioners, I'm going to recommend this item be tabled.
Commissioner Gatsa, you wanted to discuss it.
They did not provide the instrument for you?
Yes, we actually emailed that to the court.
Okay.
We have the executed agreement between the developer and Harlingen Water Works.
And why is it that you want this table?
We actually don't need, having the executed agreement, we do not need an interlocal between the county and Harlingen
Okay.
Water Works.
Move to table.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatsa to table item 8. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 12, consideration authorization for final plat approval for Pelican's Landing Estate, Phase 1, Precinct 4, being a 43 3.50 acre tract of land being all of Block 100 and 3.5 acres of Block 99, Wilson Tract subdivision. I said, Richard, you wanted to pull that one out?
Yes, Judge, this is the one that I emailed the commissioners on Friday. I gave a copy of that email to the Texas Water Development Board counsel who's working on this issue and asked her if she had any disagreement with that opinion that I gave you all, any specific disagreement with anything I put in there to let me know. And I gave her that Friday morning, and I haven't heard anything to this date. In my opinion, this court cannot approve the agreement under the, let me back up. Last Tuesday, when this was on the agenda.
May I ask, you have not received any word from Texas Water Development Board, you said?
I have not.
You just he just gave us something. I lost it in my paper.
Yeah, that's an email that we received from the executive director of the Texas Water Development Board.
Now, I got a copy of that email, Commissioner, but not from the council. I've been dealing with their Office of General Counsel, and point blank, it's their rules. Last week, this was presented to me about 45 minutes before the meeting, and I was under the impression we had adopted national model rules, but these actually are mandated rules which have the force and effect of law upon the county, and they're their rules. Their rules do not as they put it, they say they're silent on this issue. Well, that's not good enough for the county, because the county is only empowered to do what is specifically addressed. We can't fill in the blank, so to speak, as a municipality can. Secondly, their rules really are not silent on the issue. They provide for a letter of credit for the infrastructure, both for the development itself and for the infrastructure of a mud or other development that has to be set up if there's not a public water system. But they do not provide for letter of credit, and they specifically for connect fees or impact fees.
Do they mention those specifically?
They do not mention them specifically.
That being the case, I'd like to move that we approve this item
And I'll
authorize the final plat.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, item 12, I have a motion by Commissioner Gatsa, seconded by Commissioner Tamayo to approve the final plat for Pelican's Landing Estate. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 24, consideration authorization to award bids, RFPs, RFQs for A, pickup trucks, quantity 16 vans, quantity 5, service body truck, quantity 1, bid number 070302, Tipton Ford, Tippetech Chevrolet, Sames, Crow Ford, and Bogus Ford. Why are we pulling this one out?
Judge, the reason that we pull this one out, it needs to be an action item, because we're recommending vendors with the local vendors that are within the 3%. And so we needed to pull from the consent.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 27, consideration authorization to award, subject to contract negotiations approved by Commissioners Court, bids, RFP, RFQ for radiological diagnostic services for the infirmary, annual RFP 1690.
Judge, on this one, if you look at the backup, the evaluation sheet, the arrow is pointing to the 94.6, which is mobile imaging, and that is the recommendation from staff. But when the item was, and the backup that was presented to us, and when we prepared the agenda, we used the RGV mobile x-rays. And actually, the award needs to be to mobile imaging. And speaking to our attorney, he would recommend that the item be tabled and then placed back on the agenda, and have the agenda worded to where the award would be to mobile imaging.
Move to table.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatsa to table this item for 1 week and then make the correction. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Items for discussion and action, budget amendments, line item transfers, and/or salary schedules.
Judge and Commissioners, there was only, I guess, 5 line item transfers. They're within their individual departments, just between the various line items, and then there's one salary schedule with a change in the drug forfeiture fund for the DA's office, increasing slot number 74.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo to approve item 32. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Javier. Item carries. Item 33, approval of minutes for March the 13th, 2007. Members of the court had the opportunity to review the minutes. Do I hear a motion to table? Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any approved? Any opposed? Item carries. Item 34, approval of claims. Do I hear a motion to approve the claims as presented with the additional claims that have just been handed out? Do I hear a motion?
I have one I'd like to question or
Okay.
ask about.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mark, you have the list of claims there?
Yes, today.
Page 12, City of Brownsville.
There must be more than one page 12.
Oh, I'm sorry, the first page 12. There is more than one page 12.
The interlocal agreement for 106.
Interlocal agreement,
There must be 3 page 12.
$106,113.
That's, right. Interlocal agreement, that's for the Veterans Bridge.
Okay. This is from what period of time that we're paying for?
I can get back with you on that issue. It's most likely for February, March. I'm not quite
February
sure.
is what I understand it
Right.
might be for. And I'm wondering, this is April the 24th. My understanding is, and I looked through here also, and I couldn't find a payment for Harlingen or San Benito from the Los Indios Bridge. And I'm wondering if those have been paid for February.
I'll give you a report tomorrow of what's been paid year to date to the entities.
Would you?
That way you have a
Sometime-
clear understanding of what the amounts were.
Yeah, I think their understanding with, at least with the city of Brownsville is that, say we close out February, and then it's a month plus 10 days is usually about when they get them. Well, that's, 40
Is that their
days or
usual?
so. And now we're running a couple weeks beyond that point.
Right.
And if we haven't paid Harlingen or San Benito, it's going to be another week for their February payment. Maybe we have paid them for February, not sure. If you'll let us
I'll give you a listing of the disbursements to the cities, and that way you have it
I
up
know
to
the
date.
cities need their money, and we've had it for 45 days already. Well,
You're
actually
correct.
longer,
A lot
first of the
longer,
month.
yeah.
From February 1 till April 24th, or whenever they get their check Monday next week. They're mailed out.
Mark, why don't you provide also, members of the court, the section of the contract that we have with them in terms of when the due dates of those payments are? I think that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, that might be. That way.
I'm not sure
Do
the
we know
contract
when it
speaks to that, but we'll give you the contract, the entire
Well,
contract.
Not the whole, just that,
Brownsville's general understanding is we close a month, and we take a month and 10 days, which would be April 2nd for February's month. But that may not be what the contract says. I don't know.
I will get with you on exactly what the contract
Very
does
good.
say.
okay, any other claims to discuss? Hearing none and sensing none, do I hear a motion to approve county claims presented? Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please note my abstention on the claim that I provided to you. Amen.
And I have an abstention for check number 00179590.
And I turned in the affidavit on 00179739.
Okay. Item 35, discussion and possible action on wind and/or hurricane deductibles that are part of the property coverage county purchases through TAC.
TAC is Texas Association of Counties. We're in the property and casualty pool. This is for informational purposes only. We're interested in making sure that the Commissioners Court understands the level of coverage of our properties. Early in January, a few engineers approached the county judge and provided some information with regards to certain insurance companies pulling back all their coverage up to the western part of coastal counties. So I wanted to make sure that, for the record, and that it was understood of what coverage we do have on our properties. It says different deductibles apply to the property insured through TAG based on the distance from the Gulf of Mexico. Property located within 1,000 feet is excluded. Property located over 1,000 feet and less than 3 miles has $1 million deductible. Property located over 3 miles and less than 10 miles from the Gulf has a $25,000 deductible. Property located over 10 miles, the standard $5,000 deductible applies. Additional wind coverage is available and is provided through the Texas Wind TWIA, and the list of county properties currently insured with tax and the deductibles is listed. We provide that attachment. So we do also have additional coverage, and most of the insurance that we have to buy separately is for island and coastal properties. We insure through Coleman, Hall & Hines through a competitive bid arrangement.
So this is just for informational purposes?
Right. I want to make sure, because there's been some information out there that insurance agencies, which we operate through a interlocal pool through Texas Association of Counties, but other insurance companies are pulling back their coverage of coastal counties. And what was reported to us is that coverages are, that coastal impact would go to the western part of the coastal county. And so I wanted to make sure that the Commissioners Court understood that Texas Association of Counties is not abandoning their current position.
Well, not totally, but somewhat.
Yeah.
I mean, if I look at excluded locations,
right,
you know, there's $3.5 million worth of property that is not covered, right off the bat.
Well, it's not covered through this, but we have coverage through others.
Right, but through them.
But that hasn't changed.
Okay, if it's not covered through this, why are you reporting it as on this list? Because to me, when I get a list like this, and this is maybe just I read into things, I assume that we have coverage through TAG for these properties of some sort.
Yes.
We do. But they exclude all those locations.
Right.
We're not paying two premiums for the same coverage, are we?
No.
No?
No.
I can be assured of that.
There are different coverages, yes.
Okay.
You're right.
And on the second portion, $1 million deductible per building, I mean, you might as well just not worry about insuring any of that through tax.
Well, you're
for
correct
wind
on that
and
issue.
hurricane,
You're right.
right?
I'm not sure that we're better off not. What I'm saying is that we do provide other coverages that insure that building.
Right. But not through tax.
Not through tax.
So why should they even list them?
Because there are other limited coverages that do apply.
Okay.
What you're saying is that if we had the coverage through TAC, these would be excluded or have $1 million deductible on them.
Right.
But they are actually covered someplace else.
Right, we
We're
do
not
provide
paying
supplemental.
we're not paying TAC insurance on a $6,800 building that has $1 million deductible.
You're right.
Yeah, that's what kind of doesn't make sense to me.
But you're going to find that with most insurance companies, and most insurance companies are abandoning all coastal counties.
That's correct.
So
It's impacting
we want to make
everybody.
sure that the insurance coverage that has been reported is still the same as it was prior. So that's the purpose of this.
And it's going to cost us all a lot more because of that. I
Yes,
think the
property
Brownsville School District is looking like over $300,000 more for insurance coverage this year alone because of the change in companies' policies.
Well, based on my knowledge of the Property and Casualty Fund of Texas Association of Counties, significant increase in reinsurance costs that they had to go out and solicit. What they're looking at providing is trying to hold down the cost by dipping into reserves because they know that this is a competitive arrangement, that there are private insurance companies that look to provide the services. And so to remain competitive, because we understand that taxpayers have to pay the dollars. And so what they're looking at doing is dipping into reserves so that they can minimize any increase that would be there. Not all increases, but as much as they can.
Motion to acknowledge report.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Well, it wasn't to acknowledge, it was to
Action?
take action.
What kind of action
Well,
do we
actually,
take?
but there's
I guess
no
to approve,
action.
right?
To exclude ourselves?
Yeah.
From coverage?
Right?
I don't know.
All right.
I didn't
I-
see
What action?
what action
Well,
was.
the way the discussion is discussion and possible action. So the action was to acknowledge the report or to, where'd Mark go?
We acknowledge
I
the
think we
report,
just
that's the
acknowledged
action.
what, the information he gave us.
Well, possible action gives you the leeway to take any action that would fit.
All right.
If you want to just acknowledge the report, that's y'all's prerogative.
All right. We did do that. Thank you. All right, item 36, discussion possible action on temporary contract negotiations regarding the performance of autopsies for Cameron County. Is there anything with that? Anything new? Well, I think we have it every week, just in case
Right.
anything pops up. Are you a motion to table?
Have you had the meeting yet?
No.
No? Okay.
Motion to table.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. You're talking about the meeting with the other three county judges? I think that's tomorrow. I've got a meeting tomorrow with him. Item 37, consideration and authorization to hold a public hearing regarding the cancellation of a portion of a subdivision plat consisting of portions of Block 225 and all of Block 224 of the San Benito Irrigated Land Company subdivision. Ernesto, good evening.
Good evening, Judge and Commissioners. This is an open hearing or meeting.
Do I hear a motion to go to a public hearing?
Motion.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatsa. We are in a public hearing. Anybody want to speak onto this issue? No? Do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 38, consideration and authorization to adopt an order regarding the cancellation of a portion of a subdivision plat consisting of portions of Block 225 and all of Block 224 of the San Benito Irrigated Land Company subdivision. Do I hear a motion?
Move to authorize them to adopt the order.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next to the last item, item 40, consideration and possible action regarding the county's legislative agenda for the 80th Texas legislative session.
Judge, Commissioners, yesterday you were hand-delivered a packet legislative bills that we've been working on in this past session. In back of that spreadsheet was the agenda, county agenda, legislative agenda that was adopted earlier in the year. If you look through the list of bills, most of these bills are on our agenda. Some of them are bills that were brought up during the session and that we've been working on with our legislators. And so if you have any questions on any of these or any comments, we wanted to bring this before you pretty much about 30 days into the end of the session so that if there's any questions or if there's any issues that we should be working on, we can address those and possibly, work a little harder on those.
David, I'd like to see us start looking at House Bill 2017. That has to do with moving the primary to February.
It has to do with,
Moving the primary to February instead of March.
The other
Just
one
to
is
kind of
only-
follow it, yeah.
The other one is that we talked about regarding the county court of law judges. You may want to look at that one.
yes,
Whatever it was.
just to
That one may have an impact on us.
discuss the legislation that Commissioner Wood's talking about. There's legislation that'll change the primaries to February in Texas. And in addition to that, there was an amendment that was passed yesterday in the bill that calls for any official that is wanting to run for a certain position to resign their position. I think it was 90 days prior to the election.
That was House Joint Resolution 91, but that was postponed and recalendared to May the 28th, which means it won't be heard during the session. So basically what's left if House Bill 2017 passes as presented, unless it's amended in some form, fashion, or manner, then that's correct. Anyone running wanting to run for a different position than they're holding in the county has to resign, period. It's not like the current law where if you have less than a year left on your term, you can continue to stay in your position even though you're running for a different position. This would eliminate that.
And I believe this amendment was I think passed by one vote, so it's a controversial or, it's one of those, could go either way, so we'll look at it.
Anything else?
The only comment I would like to make is that, I think publicly I'd like to acknowledge Pete and David for the work they've done in keeping us posted and being there instead of calling us to run up there and do things, I think every issue that we've had, whether it's a local issue or whether it's a state issue that impacts the county, they've represented us well up there. Publicly, I'd just like to thank you for the work you've done up to now, and we look forward to the home stretch and getting the rest of what needs to happen. I know that you've kept us all involved in the process. You've kept us all on the phone in the process, and please continue to do so, but thank you for the work you've done.
And mainly, I agree with you, Commissioner, the consistency of them being there, because I've been calling, as we all have, our different senators, representatives, and their staff comments on the fact that, oh yes, Mr. Sepulveda and Mr. Garcia were here. And so the presence, I think it's at a higher level than it's ever been.
I think And I agree, but I think what's also contributed to them having the opportunity to go up is that, they've got some good department heads working under them that kind of keep the ship afloat while they're gone. If they wouldn't, then they'd have to spend more time here taking care of those matters. So, compliments not only to you, Pete, but also to your, to the staff that works under you and for you. Okay, do I hear?
Just real quick, a quick note. On one of the bills that we had pending, this was the vehicle inspection fee issue for up to $10 for funding to RMAs for mobility needs. Representative Lucio pretty much went to bat for us on that. He was able to convene the committee after the bill had passed, and he brought back, with the help of the chairman, brought back the committee, and they passed out the bill with the necessary changes to the legislation, which, in talking to a lot of people, is pretty unprecedented thing to do. So he was able to do that for us and change the language so that Cameron County could qualify for funding.
We need to extend our appreciation and consideration to him also for doing that. I know he's a freshman, but he's working hard on our behalf, and we have to respect that and look forward to his future up there.
And the speaker accommodated him.
Speaker Craddock has been very accommodating to the South Texas delegation. I think I think we can pretty much get a hold of him fairly quickly. The Governor's Chief of Staff, DeLisi, has also been very, very helpful in whatever we need to do. Just pick up the phone and call her, and she's pretty much there, or through email. So this has been probably one of the less contentious legislative sessions that we've had in quite some time, if you all recall the last time. So a lot of accolades go to our local state reps, but at the same time, accolades got to go to the speaker for allowing them to participate in the process in a nonpartisan manner, which is really what this is all about. So I hear a motion. Any further comments? Okay. Moved by Commissioner Tamayo to acknowledge Mr. Garcia's report, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 41, discussion and possible action regarding the county's federal agenda.
We don't have anything at this time.
Do I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tamayo. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. God save this honorable court.